Cinema. I ain't going to the movies today. I ain't got $6.50 to pay, so I'm gonna let what's on Ehteshaam Ghulam's mind have a say, because it's that kind of day, yay, yay. So, Superman finally returns to, or a Superman solo movie finally returns to the theaters after Man of Steel back in 2013. So it's been over 10 years since we got a solo Superman movie. So what are my overall thoughts about this movie? I'm going to be sharing my thoughts and what I think, what I didn't like about this movie, and what I liked about this movie, what I thought worked about this movie, and my overall impressions of James Gunn's DCU movie universe. I'm going to be sharing all my thoughts here. Now, because of copyright, I'm not going to share the clips. I'm just going to share screenshots of the clips just to be careful, just to avoid copyright strikes, because I don't want my channel taken down. So I'm just going to be showing the screenshots or the pictures instead of the clips itself. I think that will suffice for now. Overall, my thoughts about this movie. Now, I think this movie was okay. I don't think it was good. I don't think it was bad. I just think it was okay. I think it lacks a lot of the problems with the Superman Returns and Man of Steel. But I did enjoy, to be honest, I did enjoy Man of Steel more than I enjoyed this movie. I thought Man of Steel was a better Superman movie than this movie, because this movie is kind of like all over the place. It's kind of a mess. So let me give my 2 cents here. I think James Gunn honored the Superman comic book source material more than Zack Snyder did. I think, Zack Snyder was trying to what I like to call Batmanify or Batman Begensify Superman. And I love that take. I thought that was a cool take, but it misses the point of the Superman character, because the Superman character is supposed to be, the opposite of Batman. He's supposed to be lighter, more cheerful, and overall, a clean-cut good guy. So even though I did like Man of Steel better than this movie, I think James Gunn kind of, I don't know, he wanted to distance himself as far as possible from Zack Snyder's Superman, and that's fine. So I think he honors the comic book source material better than Zack Snyder, but I think James Gunn does make some questionable choices on how Superman is presented. Because, what Zack Snyder did right, in my opinion, in Man of Steel, was he portrayed Superman, or Clark Kent, or Superman, as some kind of godlike figure where he was indestructible. Even when he was fighting Zod and Zod's minions, he was still they were having a hard time taking Superman down. That's how, and Superman was able to overpower Zod towards the end of the movie. So I think that is Superman, where Superman's a nearly indestructible force, a storm, a force, a hurricane that can barely be stopped. He can only be stopped by kryptonite and doomsday. So I think Zack Snyder's portrayal of Superman as an almost indestructible godlike figure is portrayed better in Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League, as opposed to here. So that's where I like Zack Snyder's version of Superman better. This Superman, the problem here is James Gunn portrays Superman as woke. It's like James Gunn is trying to make a pushover Superman, and that's not Superman. A Superman that's a pushover and can be walked around and can be walked on, and there's a scene where this old man throws a can at Superman. I don't know, I feel that's not Superman. Why do you have to portray Superman as woke? Why do you have to try to make him a pushover to fit with the times? I mean, that's not Superman. So, I mean, if James Gunn actually read a Superman comic, that's not Superman or Silver Age Super, because I think he's going for the Silver Age Superman portrayal. That's not Superman. Like, Superman is supposed to be not woke, he's supposed to be like a manly figure. Instead, they make him into this like goofy woke Superman, which I didn't really appreciate. I think Zack Snyder did a better job. I do like these Superman robots though that are carrying him. I did like the Superman robots here. It does remind me of the Silver Age. The movie is flawed and messy, but it's still enjoyable. I think the plot is mostly a mess without much backstory as the origins of Clark Kent becoming Superman. One of the things I loved about Man of Steel is that it's a process. Like Clark Kent doesn't become Superman until like the end of the movie, right? He doesn't I like the fact that like Clark Kent becomes Superman like towards like half of the movie. Like he wears the suit like halfway I believe in the halfway point of the movie. So Clark Kent doesn't become Superman until half of the movie, like kind of like how Bruce Wayne doesn't become Batman in Batman Begins until like halfway through the movie. Same thing with this Superman. He doesn't become Superman until like halfway through the movie. Here he's already Superman, so there's no backstory as the origins of Clark Kent becoming Superman. So that kind of annoyed me that the story just starts. There's no backstory, and I kind of understand why James Gunn would do that, because he said that. Because I heard a interview where he says like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man's backstory is just done too many times in the movies. So I think I kind of understand why he excluded another Superman origin plot in this movie. I kind of understand that, but still, I don't know. Like, this movie is fun and it is enjoyable, but I don't know. I don't really understand, like, I don't really like the way how there's just too much going on in this movie. Like, in Man of Steel, the plot is very simple. Like, Zod has come to Earth and Superman has to stop him while honoring both his father's wishes. Like, you remember how, like, Jor-El says you can be a beacon of hope to all people, and then Jonathan Kent was like, hide yourself from the world, because the world is definitely going to fear and reject you if they found out what you are. Well, in Man of Steel, the good thing about Man of Steel is he honors both of his father's he honors both of his father's wishes, because he becomes Superman to satisfy Jor-El's plan for him, and he becomes Clark Kent to honor Jonathan Kent's plan for him. So I like that Man of Steel did that. Here, there's no backstory as to why Clark Kent becomes Superman, and that's fine, because I guess, it was done too many times in the movies. That's fine. But I do wish they did include just a little bit of why Clark Kent becomes Superman a little bit more. I do think they should have explained his origin story a little bit more in this movie. I do like the humor. I do like Jimmy Olsen and Tess Eve. I thought the humor worked with this movie, trying to be, the exact opposite of Man of Steel. So I did appreciate the fact that this movie is different from Man of Steel, as they were trying to throw as much humor in there. And I like the fact that Jimmy Olsen and Tess Eve, or Lex Luthor's girlfriend, were part of the humor with the selfies and all that. So I thought the humor worked well in this movie for, trying to lighten up, or them trying to be the exact opposite of the DCEU version of Superman. I do feel that James Gunn did actually copy off Smallville season 2. Let me explain. Remember when Superman discovers, in the later part of this movie, that his biological parents, Jor-El and Lor-El, sent him to Earth to conquer instead of saving it? Well, Smallville did that storyline in season 2. in season 2, episode 17, I believe, in the Rosetta episode, where Clark opens up his spaceship and puts the key in there and reads the Kryptonian message, and it says, we have sent you to conquer. So Smallville already explored that idea of Superman being like a conqueror instead of a savior. So I believe that James Gunn, or I think James Gunn actually plagiarized or copied that idea from Smallville. That's what I think, because again, Smallville had that concept before this movie did, and Smallville is 2000. That episode aired in 2003, and this movie came out in 2025. So obviously, I do believe that James Gunn copied that idea from Smallville. So Smallville already wrestled with that concept of Superman becoming a conqueror of Earth instead of a savior, or some kind of dictator on Earth instead of a savior. So I do think that Smallville did cover that ground, before this movie did. And if James Gunn is taking inspiration from Smallville, or if he's taking concepts from that TV show Smallville and putting it in this movie, that's fine with me, because I do love Smallville. I think Smallville is one of the best superhero TV shows of all time, like, in my opinion. So if he's taking inspiration ideas from Smallville and incorporating it into this movie, that's fine with me. But I do think that, I don't know, like, this idea of a Superman not being a savior but a conqueror, I think it's been done too many times. We've seen it with Brightburn. I think James Gunn produced that movie, whereas that Superman kid is actually a conqueror instead of a savior. So that idea of Superman being like a evil dictator or evil conqueror of Earth, I think that's already been done too many times. And this movie just rehashing what we already seen with like Red Sun Superman, and with the Injustice games, and the Brightburn. We have already seen evil Superman, conqueror Superman. We've already seen that. So why James Gunn is going for that here doesn't make much sense to me. But I do. I don't know. I do get what James Gunn was going for. He was going for like a different take on the origins of Superman. So instead of Superman being portrayed as a savior like it was done in like previous movies like DCU, etc., he wanted to make Superman a conqueror, or he wanted to flip the origin story around, saying that Superman was always supposed to be a dictator or a conqueror of Earth instead of a savior. So I think James Gunn wanted to shake things up a little bit, or he wanted to do the exact opposite of DCU, but he took it too far, because that's, again, James Gunn. I feel like James Gunn, he honors the Superman sources, but at the same time he throws his own spin in there, and it misses the point of the character, right? Like, I think like people were unfairly criticizing Man of Steel's portrayal of Superman, but at least Zack Snyder understood that his parents sent him to Earth to be a savior, to be a beacon of hope, to be a shining light a shining example for humanity to follow. So at least Zack Snyder got that concept of Superman right, where Superman's a character of hope. He's supposed to be like a Christ-like savior figure. He was destined, or he was born to be a savior, right? So James Gunn taking that and then putting his own spin and then doing the exact opposite of what Superman is supposed to be, that's not Superman. That's not the character of Superman. So I think James Gunn misses the point of Superman. I mean, say what you want about Zack Snyder, at least he understood what Superman was born to do, what he was destined to do, what Clark Kent was destined to do. He was destined to be a savior. He was destined to be a beacon of hope. He was destined to be a superhero from, even before he came on Earth, even before, he reached adulthood, he was destined to be a superhero. Here, he's trying too hard to do the exact, James Gunn is trying too hard to do the exact opposite, and I don't think it works here because this movie is supposed to portray a lighter Superman. Instead they portray him as being a would-be conqueror, and it doesn't work for the tone of this movie. So I think James Gunn, I don't know, it didn't fit with the tone of this movie. I felt like Superman being a conqueror is missing the point of the character. So that was something I didn't really enjoy about James Gunn's portrayal of Superman. I feel like he wanted to shock audience, or he wanted too hard to do the exact opposite of what Superman is supposed to be for shock value. But I don't know, it just doesn't work for this movie, right? It just doesn't work for the tone of this movie. What I do like about this movie is Lex Luthor. Now let's go into what I do like about this movie, because I think I got all my criticisms out. What I do like about this movie is the portrayal of Lex Luthor. I think the actor who plays Lex Luthor was a pretty good Lex Luthor, in my opinion. I think he portrays him as, for lack of a better term, like as a petty bitch, So I think Nicholas Hoult did a good job in portraying Lex Luthor as some kind of like, I don't know how to describe him, some kind of like petty, some kind of like overly petty, overly jealous, overly psychotic version of Lex Luthor. So I think Nicholas' portrayal of Lex Luthor was the exact opposite of Batman v Superman's portrayal of Lex Luthor. You know how they made Zack Snyder made Lex Luthor into like, or Jesse Eisenberg made Lex Luthor into some kind of like Mark Zuckerberg, like Mark Zuckerberg Batman, or Dark Knight Jokerized Riddler. I think this Lex Luthor is closer to the comics or the source material, as him being some kind of obsessive billionaire who wants the world to see Superman fail. So I think Nicholas's portrayal of Superman was a lot better than Batman v Superman's portrayal of Lex Luthor. I think Nicholas did a good job in portraying what I believe the Superman comics portrays Lex Luthor to be. So I think this version of Lex Luthor works for me. I also enjoyed Rachel's performance as Lois Lane. I thought her performance as Lois Lane was closer to the comics than Amy Adams' portrayal of Lois Lane in Man of Steel. Again, I love Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel was one of the best Superman movies ever. But the problem with that portrayal of Lois Lane was she was too dependent on Superman. Like, Superman was saving her too much, and she was just too much of a damsel in distress. That's not the case here. And here she's kind of seen as again, going back to the woke elements of this movie, she's seen as a fearless female leader. She's seen as somebody who takes charge, who doesn't need Superman to save her. She's not a damsel in distress. She's more of a leader. She's more of somebody who's willing to, take risk, and she's someone who's willing to like step in the ring, right? She's someone who's willing to take risk, and like the scene where she's flying the spaceship. So she James Gunn portrayal of her she's seen as more of a independent woman, like a fiercely independent woman, and more of a leader, etc. And she's not dependent on Superman. So I thought that portrayal of Lois Lane, where she's an independent woman who is doing her own thing and is not as dependent on Superman to save her, she's not a damsel in distress as much. Like, I do love Amy Adams' portrayal as Lois Lane. I think she was good, and it doesn't make much sense for me to compare the two. But the problem was in the script of Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, etc. She was way too much dependent on Superman. Like even in Justice League, like she's just like moaning the loss of Superman, and that's comic accurate. Don't get me wrong, that is comic book accurate. But here, this Lois Lane just does her own thing. She has her own side quest. She has like side quest with Mr. Terrific, and she gets into arguments with what's his name, Green Lantern, Nathan Fillion's Green Lantern, and she's more like argumentative, and she's more like assertive, and she's more independent, and she's not dependent on Superman saving her all the time. And I think that's a better portrayal of, you know, this new woke Lois Lane, I guess, where she's just an independent woman doing her own thing, and she's not as dependent on Superman. So I think James Gunn did a good job in portraying that, and I think I liked Rachel's performance as Lois Lane here. I do. Another thing I liked about this movie is I like the action sequences, the fight sequences. I think they were pretty good, with Superman fighting that kaiju monster, and Superman fighting the Hammer of Bolivia, being the the clone of that Superman. So I like that version. I like the fight sequences. I like the action sequences. I think the action sequences and the fight sequences were well done in this movie. Again, I still prefer Man of Steel's. This is me going back to DCU. I think the fight sequences in Man of Steel were done better than in this movie. But the fight sequences here were pretty cool because you get to see Green Lantern and Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific fight the kaiju monster, not just Superman. And you get to see Superman fighting the Hammer of Bolivia, and you get to see like more of them working as a team and all that, and you do get to see some one-on-one fight scenes with Superman and the clone of him, the Hammer of Bolivia, just like in Man of Steel. Remember in Man of Steel there was a one-on-one with Superman and Zod towards the end of the movie. You get to see like some one-on-one fight scenes with Superman, and so I enjoyed, regardless, I enjoyed the CGs. I enjoyed the CGI. I really like the CGI. I really like the fight sequences. I really like the action sequences of this movie. I thought they were really well done, and they captured the comic book essence. It was like you're reading a comic book and watching this movie, and you're flipping the pages and you're seeing like the action of the comic books spread out. So I think James Gunn captured that Silver Age comic book feel of the Superman comics pretty well in this movie, in my opinion. So the special effects, CGI, action sequences, fight sequences were well done, in my opinion, with this movie. I did enjoy Nathan Fillion's portrayal as Green Lantern. I think he portrayed, his version of Green Lantern as being stuck up, rude, arrogant, and, at times annoying. So I like that portrayal of Green Lantern. I think they were trying to make this Green Lantern into like Logan. Like this Green Lantern kind of reminded me of Wolverine and Deadpool Deadpool and Wolverine, the Deadpool and Wolverine movie that came out last year. I think that, this version was seen as more of a, I don't know, like a wannabe of that Wolverine, and in Deadpool and I'm sorry, in Spider-Man in a way, because Spider-Man, or at least Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man like quips and stuff, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man like quips. Well, I feel like this guy had a mouth on him. He was spreading, he was just saying like whatever comes to his mind, and he wasn't, he was kind of like cocky, rude, and arrogant towards, both Lois Lane and Superman. So, I like that portrayal. I think that's a different portrayal of it kind of he kind of reminds me of Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think James Gunn was trying to take elements of Star-Lord and put it into Green Lantern, and that's fine with me. I mean, I did enjoy this take of Green Lantern as opposed to the Green Lantern of the 2011 film. So I think this version of the Green Lantern worked for the overall tone of this movie. So I think he was pretty good comic relief in this movie, Nathan Fillion. Okay, now this is going to be controversial, but what I didn't like about this movie was Crypto. I thought the dog was really annoying, really, really not well mannered, and was unruly, etc. Now, I do get what James Gunn was going for. He wanted to make this Superman, again, the exact opposite of the DCEU Superman, because Zack Snyder would have never, ever included Crypto or the Superdog in his version, in his trilogy, in his DCEU trilogy. But, like, they were trying to add more lighter elements in this movie, and I guess they wanted to sell some Superman dog or super dog toys off this movie, so they included it's the super dog movie or the super dog in this movie to sell toys or merchandise or whatever. And I guess it worked because those the super dog popcorn buckets sold out in many theaters, in many theaters, and obviously the merchandising was centered on the super dog. So I do think that, I don't know, like, this dog was annoying to me. I didn't really like him, in my opinion, and I think this dog just I don't know, like, he was kind of like the Jar Jar Blinks of the movie, right? I didn't really like the dog being in the movie. The other thing I didn't like is I feel like there wasn't enough Ma and Pa Kent. Again, I don't know, like, James Gunn could have given us, I don't know, 2 minutes of backstory of why Clark Kent became Superman in some kind of like flashback or something, or even them or Pa and Ma Kent talking to Clark Kent and then reminding him why he's Superman. I feel like that could have been done in this movie, but again, James Gunn trying to distance himself from other Superman movies misses the origin point, or misses the backstory or the motivation of Clark Kent to become Superman, because we even get like a little bit of backstory as to why Bruce Wayne becomes Batman in Batman v Superman. So at least we get like a 2-minute or at least like a 1 or 2 minute clip of Bruce Wayne's parents being gunned down in the alley in the beginning of Batman v Superman. We don't even get any of that origin of Superman in this Superman movie, which I thought was odd. But again, Pa Kent and Ma Kent are barely in this movie. They're like, I don't know, they're kind of like an afterthought. And I didn't really like that, because in Man of Steel, again, Jonathan and Martha Kent do have a important role. Here they're not, they're just there, right? They're just there, and they don't have much to do, or they don't have much to say. This is like the most redneck version of Ma and Pa Kent I've ever seen. This is like the most redneck version I've seen of them. So again, I don't know, like, I didn't really like the fact that they're barely in this movie, and their portrayal, again, I don't know, like, it just didn't work for me. For me, it doesn't work, with these characters. I also feel that Clark Kent was not in this movie as much. Now, I get that there's a lot going on in this movie, and I get that there's a lot of story they have to unpack, a lot of characters. There's Lex Luthor, Jimmy Olsen, Lex Luthor's girlfriend, Lois Lane, Mr. Terrific, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Lex Luthor, Superman. They have like a lot of characters in this movie, but the one character I feel like they needed more Clark Kent. Clark Kent is barely in this movie. He's in this movie for, I don't know, like maybe like 2-3 minutes, maybe 5 if you count the interview with Lois and Clark in the beginning of the movie. So Clark Kent is not in this movie as much, and to be fair, Zack Snyder also did not include Clark Kent in his movies either. Like, Clark Kent is barely in Batman v Superman. He's not even in Justice League. He's like, they just resurrect Superman, and then that's it. I think Clark Kent has like a 30-second scene in the end of Justice League. Here, Clark Kent is there, but he's barely there. He's Superman like most of the time. And again, I think James Gunn misses the point of that character, because I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make Superman the dominant personality, and Clark Kent is just a disguise. I liked Lois and Clark's portrayal of Superman, where Superman is the mask or the disguise, and Clark Kent is the dominant person. Here, Clark Kent is like barely here, so they're trying to go for the Christopher Reeve version of Superman, where Superman is the real person, and Clark Kent is just an afterthought or a disguise. And I like it the opposite way, right? And to be fair, again, this is a criticism of DCU or Zack Snyder's version, where Clark Kent is the true personality, and Superman is just what he does. Like, I like that line in Lois and Clark, where he says, Superman or Clark Kent is who I am. Superman is what I can do. But here it's like Superman is who he is. Clark Kent is just what he does or what he can do on the side. And I didn't, and that's if the director feels that like there isn't enough time to explore Clark Kent in the movie, that's fine with me. But I feel like Clark Kent should be included more in the Superman movies. In the Superman movies, he's kind of seen as an afterthought. He's seen as like the mask. So I didn't really appreciate that there was very, very little Clark Kent in this movie, like there was in the previous Man of Steel movie. So what did I think overall about this movie? I liked it. I mean, no, it's okay. I mean, I liked it for what it is, but I think it could have been better. I think James Gunn, I think the plot was messy. There was too much going on, and this is where I think Man of Steel is superior than this Superman movie, because Man of Steel, the plot is linear. The plot, like, there's just one plot: Superman stopping Zod and the world engines from destroying Earth and making it New Krypton. Here, the movie's all over the place, right? There's too much going on with the countries fighting each other, and there's too much going on with Jor-El and Laurel's message to him about being a conqueror. There's too much going on with Krypto the dog and Lex Luthor's plan, and I don't know. I feel like there's just too much going on in this movie. The movie is, plot-wise, it's a mess. There's just too much going on, and I think the plot is mostly messy, and I feel like there's questionable choices as to Superman's portrayal. I think Superman was portrayed as too weak, too woke, too much of a pushover, because I think James Gunn just wants to go with the times. The times is everything has to be woke now. Media has to be woke. Superman, Fantastic Four, all that has to be woke now. Like, we have a Silver Surfer that's a woman. That wasn't there in the comics, but in the movie, she's a woman. But that contradicts the Fantastic Four 48, where Silver Surfer is a man. So they're trying to woke Superman. They're trying to woke Fantastic Four, and that doesn't work here, because I feel like they're trying too hard to woke everything. But anyways, the movie's enjoyable. Go watch it. If you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. I think like this movie's, it's not bad, but it's not excellent. It's okay, like, in my opinion. I still like the movie. I think the movie's enjoyable. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. But I think it could have been done a little bit better if James Gunn honored, I don't know, if James Gunn just made the plot a little bit more linear, or a little bit more focused. Instead, the movie was like all over the place. The plot was too much of a mess, etc. It's still enjoyable. I do like David's portrayal of Superman. I do like Nicholas's portrayal of Lex. I do like Rachel's portrayal of Lois Lane. I think all those the casting was good and the acting was good, etc. So what do I give this movie? I give this movie a watch on streaming when you're bored. So, if you're bored, watch this movie on HBO Max when it comes out. I think it's a good boredom buster. So that's all I would rate it. I wouldn't rate it as excellent, but I wouldn't rate it as bad either. It was okay. Go watch it on streaming.